So this workshop is Zen and the Art of Peaceful Cycling, free legal advice. We're going to be talking about what the law says cyclists should do, have to do, and also talk about where that might not be the safest thing to do or the most practical thing to do. My name is Bob Giordano, run the Missoula Institute for Sustainable Transportation. This is Craig.
Hello, I'm the lawyer on the team.
We have a couple participants in the workshop. Sam, any words of wisdom or why you're here?
Just here to represent bicyclists.
Okay. And?
Hey, Cazador rocks!
All right, Cazador.
Okay.
What is it? Cazador.
Hey, Cazador rocks!
All right, so we got a group. Let's start the conversation by asking, has anyone here been in a, what they'd perceive to be maybe a dangerous situation biking on the streets of Missoula in the last couple months?
No.
No, not really.
Nothing.
We were hoping to open it up to questions.
Yeah.
From the group, but nobody showed up except you two. So that's unfortunate. I wonder if it's because of the weather. Is this going to be aired? So there's many people watching this that are going to have questions. So let's think about what kind of questions you guys think might be burning questions for cyclists around town. Can you help us out?
People always want to know about riding on the sidewalk.
Okay. Is it legal to ride on the sidewalks, right? Okay, well that's the easy answer, isn't it?
What do you think, Sam? Is it legal to ride your bike on a sidewalk in Missoula?
I think it's perfectly fine if there's not a bunch of pedestrians, and a lot of times it's actually safer to ride on the sidewalk if there's a bunch of traffic and a lot of places where there isn't bike lanes. I choose to ride on the sidewalk, but I definitely won't if there's a bunch of pedestrians because that can get really dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we just got somebody that just showed up. Ma'am, are you here for the bike walk? Can you step in a little closer? Do you mind giving us your name? This is going to be.
Patricia Hogan.
What's that again?
Right.
Now, the state has a law that says it's legal. The city had a resolution saying illegal, so there was confusion for several years, and the city learned that the state law supersedes local law about 2 years ago. The only place where it remains illegal is if it's signed or stenciled.
For instance,
the Higgins Street Bridge. Yeah, you can see it. A sign right on the entrance to the bridge, bicycle with a red slash through it. But let's all work towards cycling on the streets, leaving the sidewalks for pedestrians, but it has to be a bit safer to do that for some people.
Does that sign mean that you cannot walk your bike across the pedestrian walk either?
No, you can walk your bike.
Walk it? Okay.
Now we need to work towards better walkways because you can't even barely fit you and your bike on that sidewalk.
Right.
okay, so Patricia, we were hoping that we'd get a crowd here, and we were wanting to answer the questions that the people had. So we have an idea, but we don't want to be talking heads. So
I
you
have a question.
Good.
What is the standard for signaling a right turn?
Okay, signaling a right turn.
Yeah.
You're on your bike.
Yeah.
It'd be like this, right, Bob? It's
Or you
like
can do it
this.
with your right arm.
Because sometimes I've read
okay.
that you're supposed to do it that way.
I do both.
Both are acceptable.
You can't do both or you won't be able to hold on to
Well,
your...
not at the same time, right? But like if I got cars out here that aren't going to see my right arm, I'll go like this.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
It just kind of depends on the situation, but right?
Yeah.
Okay?
Because that's the way I learned when I was a
Yeah.
kid, but then I read something recently about doing it that way and I thought maybe they changed it.
This is preferred, but this is very acceptable.
Okay.
Yeah.
My daughter sees me go like this, or I go like this sometimes. And she's been watching me do that for about eight years now. And the other day she said, "Why do you do that anyway?" And I said, "Because it's a signal." And she goes, "Just no, that's the right side."
Hey, let's shift gears real quick. Look over here to the left. Now that's technically illegal
Is it?
to split lanes at an intersection, although sometimes it's a safer thing to do. It really depends on the situation. The law says you're supposed to get in line at signalized intersections.
Even if you're on the far right lane, You have to.
Even on the far, now that brings up an interesting situation. Craig and I were talking about this a little while ago, because the law says you must ride as far to the right as practicable, unless you're overtaking or there's a car door that could be in your way, or you're making a left.
A road hazard.
Road hazards. So there is a gray area when you're approaching an intersection, you're staying to the right, and you pull up to the stoplight. If you're legally allowed to be on the right side of cars. It depends on who overtakes who. If you're there first, that's okay.
I got a question. What if you're like riding down the bike lane, but there's cars parked right there, and you want to ride over? So if there happens to be someone open their door, you don't get doored. Can you ride just like a step over so you're safer?
Okay.
'Cause I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's what I don't know. I always ride a little bit over so I don't get doored.
We have a little demonstration we're going to do in a little bit with that very question, and I've got a red Volvo car down here parked, and we'll all see how it works and where you should ride safely. Okay, we're going to do that in about 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, that's a good question.
Now the overarching little law book, Patricia, do you have one of those?
Yes.
Okay. Montana state law for bicyclists. It's very concise. Right on page 1, it gives cyclists all the rights and responsibilities as drivers, and then it goes into the details. And one of the big ones is riding as far right as practicable.
Yeah.
But as Craig was mentioning, sometimes it's not, and you were alluding to, Sam, it's not practicable. It's not safe to be in what's called the door zone. Many cyclists get doored in Missoula. I was one of them 2 years ago. Learned the hard way not to be anywhere near a parked car. Well, let's clarify, about 3.5 feet. You want to be out that far.
Okay, so I also want to say that if you're entering into an area where there's, like, say, a signalized intersection, right, with a stoplight, and there's no bike lane, okay, and you got cars that are already stopped at the stoplight, I routinely go to as far to the right as I can, and I actually pass the cars on the right that are stopped, and I go to the front, right up front where the crosswalk is, and I wait for the light to change. That's not legal. Unless there's a bike lane there. It's not legal. It's actually illegal. It's passing on the right. You're supposed to get in line. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I don't think anybody does that, but I'm just telling you that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't think you'd get a ticket for it, but I can tell you that you might get a ticket for it because it's illegal. Okay? Does that help you?
Yeah. I have another question. Oh yeah. Is there any kind of regulation about whether you are supposed to have a bell to warn people when you're overtaking them, pedestrians and other bicycles?
That's a good question, isn't it? What do you think about that? Anybody have an idea on that one? It's in the book.
I think you could just holler instead. You don't need a bell. You can just be like, hey, coming on your right, coming on your left. That's what I do. I'd rather not have a bell on my bike. But.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's no legal issue on that, but it's
in the book right here.
It is suggested strongly to give audible signal.
It says actually shall give audible signal before overtaking and passing any pedestrian. So
that's
what that could mean,
statutory.
yeah, that could mean that you give a verbal on your left, on your right, or a bell. I actually like bells. I think they're kind of cool. But you don't. It's not a law again. There's no law that requires it.
Well, that's not
Audible with your voice.
So that is saying if you're on a sidewalk.
It says
audible just means
right.
you can hear it.
Audible means you can hear it, but Bob's right. It says overtaking a pedestrian, right? So that would mean on a sidewalk. That means when you're on the road, you're not going to be overtaking a pedestrian, I suppose, unless they're running or walking.
But I mean, like on that riverfront trail, that's a good place to.
Yeah, I think that's probably. I think that would be considered a sidewalk where pedestrians go, non-motorized traffic, and I think you'd probably be required to give an audible warning before overtaking a pedestrian. That's what I'm thinking.
Thank you.
Okay, but maybe not. Maybe Bob. Maybe that would be considered a roadway. But I don't think I can take my car down there, so I don't think it's a roadway. I think it's a trail for pedestrians and non-motorized traffic. Yeah.
Well, all I know is that sometimes it seems to me kind of hazardous, and I'll be riding my bike along that that trail sometimes, and bikes will pass me on the right.
Yeah.
I had no idea they
It's-
were coming.
Yeah, it's.
And
they
if I
should
had
warn you.
decided to just go that way for some reason and not know they were there, I could have crashed.
Or if you're going to go on your bike slowly, right? I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it just makes common sense that you give somebody a warning. But I think it may be required. Do you want to go down there and do the demonstration?
let's walk down.
Shall we go down a couple blocks? We're going to go down to Higgins, like by Liquid Planet area, that area, okay? I'm going to go through and not hit you, and hopefully not get hit, and show you that the car and me can't share. We can't share their lane. And the car door, myself, and a car can't share that lane on Higgins. We're going to show you that. That make sense? You understand what we're going to do? Okay? So
Okay, especially downtown Higgins, where there are no bike lanes yet. It can be dangerous to be cycling in this outer lane along the parked car doors. The law allows this, and it's a safer thing to do, to take the center of the lane. We need to work as a community to have motorists and cyclists alike understand that notion that cyclists should not be riding alongside the parked car doors. Now here we have Craig demonstrating, coming along, and even right now he's too close to the parked car doors, and he looks like he's having some equipment malfunction. Getting a little head protection. The law does not require a helmet, but it is a very safe thing to do. So he's coming along, and that's a big door. There's not enough room for a car to pass him in that lane at all. And one of the stipulations for riding as far right as practicable is if it's safe enough to share the lane. By the way, that was an illegal maneuver, U-turn in Higgins. Okay, the law says ride as far right as practicable while on a cycle, except when overtaking other cyclists, making a left turn, when conditions are hazardous, or if the lane is too narrow to safely share with motor vehicles. So when you have parking, as a cyclist, you should not ride within 4 feet of parked cars. You can see the motorists have to exit that lane, including the policeman behind there. So a vehicle, bike, and an open car door cannot stay in the same lane.
where do you usually bike?
Well, I usually ride right along the side of next to the car door.
And have you ever thought about?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not trying to pick on you. Have you ever thought about how the bike can get hit by a door if somebody opens it?
Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody open a car door so you know exactly how much room you have when you bike?
No.
It's really, did it surprise you to see how much room you really need to be able to clear that door, or did it not surprise you?
Well, I knew that you need a lot of room. And I guess when I ride down the road, I'm just thinking, I'm watching to see if anybody's in the car ahead of me.
So you're paying attention to the car door possibility and also the cars on the left passing you?
Yeah.
And how does that make you feel? Safe? Comfortable?
Not really. I don't really like riding on Higgins.
It's kind of scary, I agree.
Yeah.
So I think that the city has to do something about that. It's very dangerous, I think. It's not good. What about you guys?
I definitely don't want to get doored.
No, but I don't want to get hit by a car either, do you?
Yeah.
All right. So was it surprising to you when we opened that car door? Did it surprise you as to how far out from into the lane that car door went?
Yeah. Well,
Have you done that before as a demonstration?
no, I haven't.
Not many people have.
Yeah, you just have to bike really offensively.
How about you, Summer? Did it surprise you or not? How far out?
I think you have a pretty wide door.
Uh-oh. Whoa. Uh-oh. You think that door is more wide than normal?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm going to tell you that if you think that it's more wide than normal, bring your car down here, park it, and measure it. And you'll see, maybe I had a tape measure actually, we could have measured it, but you'll see it's really very, very interesting how wide those doors are. They open way up, And we even did this morning. There was a little compact car before we did this video. It was a little white, like, I don't know, Honda or Kia or something, a small little car. And the door opened way out, and I was like, oh my gosh. So,
But you have to be prepared for the widest door to open upon you at any time. I've talked to the city and the police about this, and one of their responses is that it's the cyclist's responsibility to scan motor vehicles, and it's also the driver's responsibility to look before getting out. Windows are tinted, people are not always visible, so I don't think as cyclists you can count on a motorist always looking before they get out. So the law does allow a cyclist to take the center of the lane to be out of harm's way.
no, I don't know. I don't think anybody's ever got a ticket on Higgins for trying to avoid a car door, but it's probably going to happen sooner or later. I think somebody's going to get a ticket, but I just don't think it's safe, and I think the city needs to do something about it. It's very dangerous.
Well, one thing is to make this a 3-lane road and put bike lanes in, or a wide 2-lane so cars and cyclists, everyone slows down and can share the road. So while we may have an unsafe situation now, let's work as a community to make this road work better. Because a lot of people are doored. I was doored 2 years ago right in front of Liquid Planet. I moved over a little bit to let a car pass. A door opened and the woman had been leaning down, so I didn't see her at all in her car to get out, and my handlebar barely touched the car door, but it was enough to throw my handlebars to the side.
Yeah.
I rolled with it, and luckily there was no other traffic to run me over.
I thought you could commandeer a lane if you deemed necessary. Is that legal or not legal?
It depends on under what circumstances. If you deem it necessary, like for instance if there's a road hazard, or if you're overtaking a vehicle on the left side that's going slower than you, or a road hazard I would say would be a car door, the answer is yes, but I shouldn't say yes, it's yes and no. It's really up to the judge or the jury. So just because you deem it necessary doesn't mean that you can do it. You might deem it necessary. Now, if you get a ticket, because the officer doesn't deem it necessary, now it's up to the judge if it's a judge trial, or if you waive a jury, or it's up to the jury if it's a jury trial, if you don't waive a jury. And if they deem it necessary, then you're good. So it's not really whether I deem it necessary or not. I'm going to do what I feel is right. And if I can support that, and now then again, you know, it's like innocent until proven guilty, but really it's going to be up to me to show that that was necessary what I was doing. So, does that answer your question? If you deem it necessary?
It's troublesome either way, because I want it to be clear cut. Either yes, I may, or no, I may not.
Okay, well, the answer is yes, you may if there's a road hazard that you find that would require you to move over from the rightmost portion of the lane. But now, there was a guy on Reserve Street that did that in the wintertime. There was all this gook and rock and ice and snow that was pushed up into the bike lane. And so he didn't want to ride through the slush that morning to work. So he rode out into the roadway. He got a ticket. He deemed it necessary to do what he was doing. His cop didn't think it was appropriate, and the jury found him guilty. So there's no clear-cut answer. There just isn't.
In that situation, the police asserted that the bike lane was bikeable, and they made that assertion from while they were driving on Reserve in the middle of winter. And it's really hard to tell if a surface is bikeable unless you are a bicycle and can experience that surface.
Now, let me just say this. If you are, so you want a clear-cut answer, there isn't one. If you are a bicycler and you got a car behind you and they're beeping at you, and you go like this behind you, or you even flip them off, or you just go like this, or if you want to antagonize them, then you're going to get a complaint. They're going to get on their cell phone, they're going to call into 911. And then the next car that comes through, you do it. And the next car, and you're going to get multiple calls to 911, and you're going to get a ticket. And then when you go to court, they're going to play those calls to the jury. And then suddenly you're going to go, well, I was just minding my own business. And then all these calls come in, and then people are going to take the stand and go, that guy was a nuisance out there.
Are you saying the law also is based on the emotions of the situation and the jury of the day?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. So if you get nothing out of this, it's be polite, be respectful, do the right thing, understand what the law is, okay? Follow your rights, but you have to be respectful. And if you want to challenge the officer on who's right and who's wrong, and you want to be an antagonist about it, you might have that right. It's called the First Amendment right of freedom of speech. Great, go for it. But you're going to get a ticket, and you're going to have to hire a lawyer, or you get a public defender. If you hire one, it's going to cost a lot of money, all because you wanted to be principled and assert your right to freedom of speech. That's fine and all, but you're going to end up in trial, and the jury's going to listen to witnesses saying how you were carried on out there on the road, and the jury's not going to like you, and you're going to be found guilty. If there is a choice between guilt or not guilt, if you're on that balance, okay, and the jury has an opportunity to exercise some discretion and then go either way. If they don't like the way you behaved out there, they're probably going to find against you. That's just the way it is. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm just saying that's reality. So, does that help at all?
I'd like to add that on the MIST website, we have what we call a hotspots page that any cyclists can report if they've been hit by a car. And we track the location, how it happened, you can rate the severity, and we're doing this for two reasons, and that's one is to raise awareness that there are crashes happening, and two, to then find solutions when we know the numbers of how many are happening, where they're happening, and that's strans.org, and click on hotspots. Even if it was 2 or 3 years ago, log that on there, and we'll help make the roads work better for everyone.
Can I say one last thing? Before we got gathered here, we were hanging out down by the Wilma waiting for people to show, and we saw a guy coming down on a bicycle down the Higgins Street Bridge on the wrong side of the road, coming north in the southbound lane. Officer stopped him right in front of us. We watched this. 2 or 3 minutes, let him go. Came our way, and I asked him. I said, "What happened?" He said, "He gave me a warning." So I don't know what the transaction was or what the discussion or the dialogue was, but if you are doing what you're doing and there's a good reason for it, and you can support it, and you are able to express that and articulate that to the officer, then I just don't think they're running around out there like, conspiracy theory to get bicyclists. So, you may get a ticket, but you may not. So if you're in the lane in Higgins and you're trying to avoid, and you're doing the right thing and you're being sincere and you're trying to avoid car doors because you know how far a car door is open, and you explain that to him very nicely and respectfully, he'll probably listen to you. Maybe not. He might give you a ticket, but it's worth a try. I just wanted to add that, okay?
Does anyone else have anything to add on some of the things we've touched upon? Tricia?
Well, I guess I'm just thinking I'd rather have a ticket than get hit by a car, because then I lose.
That's good.
And
Good point.
but the thing is, I mean, I know that you don't want to antagonize the automobile drivers because there's a lot of hostility out there to bicycles, and if you antagonize them, they have the advantage. So that's why I think I gotta always try to be as low to the ground as I can with my bicycle behavior, and I try, even though some of the things I do because it's safer to do it that way than the legal way. I really try to be as respectful as I can at every opportunity, because I don't want people mad at me when they have a big car.
Well, you mentioned sometimes there's a safer way than the legal way, and one illustration of that may be neighborhood stop signs. Idaho actually allows cyclists to only have to yield at stop signs, and Montana is considering changing the Montana law to allow a yield instead of stop. And there is some research that suggests that it's safer to actually yield because you keep a little bit of momentum, not blowing through a stop sign, but just yielding. Cyclists have all their senses. You can see, you can hear, you're out in front. It's not like driving. So while cyclists have all the rights and responsibilities of drivers, I think we need to acknowledge that there's some big differences between a car and a bicycle as a mode of transportation and make our laws accordingly. So everyone needs to think about these issues and make your voice heard. Anything else anyone wants to add?
What about taking a left across through an intersection?
Let's look at that cyclist.
Yeah.
Right there, just real quick.
Okay.
Well,
Oh boy. Whoa. Oh boy.
did turn green while he was in the intersection, but the law says do stop. Idaho law not only allows cyclists to yield at stop signs, but to proceed through a red light after coming to a complete stop.
He's taking a left. Okay.
Good hand signal.
Good hand. See. So when you're taking a left like that, and you got to change the lane from the right lane to the left lane, you're taking a left. Do you feel, what do you do? Do you as a car, do you operate as a car and do you go into the left lane there and you're out there in the middle of traffic and you make your left-hand turn like you would a car, or that's what you do, right? Yeah. When you do that, I make myself as big as I possibly can.
You mean
You
in
know?
the middle of the lane?
Yeah. Yeah, because if I'm making a left turn and I'm sort of like on one side of the lane or the other to like let the cars go by me on the left lane, I'm actually inviting them to thread a needle, and I think I'm gonna get hurt there.
Yeah.
So if I'm making a left-hand turn, and I think the officers would be okay with that, I'm gonna make myself big and I'm gonna take my lane, because I just think it's dangerous otherwise.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, here's a question about
Yeah.
left turns. When you got a 5-lane, you know that the center lane is that two-way turn lane, like you got out on West Broadway.
Orange Street too.
Yeah, and you know you're coming up where you got to make a left turn, so you got to get over there into that left travel lane before you can turn into the center lane. Is it okay to do that like a block in advance and then travel along the two-way turn lane? Because otherwise what I find is I get up there, I'm ready to make the left turn, I'm stuck over here in the bike lane and I have to wait until all the traffic passes before I can cross. So I might as well be a pedestrian.
Yeah, the law does allow that. It just like it's one of the rights to not swerve across a couple lanes all at once, but it's more prudent to do what you said, and that's signal, move into the left lane, then signal again and move into that center turn lane.
Okay, good, thanks.
Anything else? Sam, anything on your mind?
Nope.
I want to just touch on a couple things. Lights at night, the law says a front light visible from 500 feet away, and that's about a little over a city block. You do not have to have a rear light, but it's a good idea to have a rear light.
You have to have reflectors if you have lights.
You have to have 8 reflectors on your bike.
8 reflectors.
Who knows where those 8 reflectors are?
The 2 wheels, front and rear.
That's 4.
And both sides of your pedals.
Yes, that's all 8. The front reflector would be white or amber, and the rear reflector red or amber.
So I'm illegal.
Yep.
Here's an illegal bicycle.
You can put like 16 reflectors on that bike.
Wait a minute. Look on the tag along. Look at the pedals on the tag along.
So we got 1, 2,
And you've got
3.
reflective tape.
So what do you think, Bob? Am I good?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a lot of reflector tape. 6.
It's really gonna hassle
Oh, is
you
that
though.
just one bike?
Let go, you're missing a pedal reflector.
Good question. Is it 1 bike or 2?
That's another good question.
Is it even a bike because it has more than 2
You
wheels?
need to get a good lawyer, I think. Now here's the question: does this reflector tape in the front count? Does this reflector tape in the front count for a reflector, for a white reflector? It's red and white. Come over here, officer. Excuse me, officer. Go over here.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I don't know. I don't know if it counts or not. But you know what? If I take that tag along off, I'm definitely not good. I didn't know that till this demonstration.
Reflectors in the spokes is dangerous. Because if they like kind of move or something and turn sideways, they can get rammed in your fork
Yeah.
and then just explode or something. That I won't never ride reflectors in my spokes.
Okay, here's the law. Every bicycle when in use at nighttime shall be equipped with either tires with retroflective sidewalls or reflectors mounted on the spokes of each wheel. The spoke should be within 3 inches of the inside of the rim and visible on each side of the wheel, and on and on. Now that says just bicycles in use at nighttime. So if you don't ride at night at all, apparently you don't have to have your 8 reflectors.
Right.
All right, anything else? Anything we haven't covered? We're nearing the end of our session here.
Bicycling on the sidewalk. Biking sharing the lane down Higgins with a car door. Hey, what about this?
Oh, they built that bike at Free Cycles yesterday.
When? There you go, little Free Cycles. When can I ride my bike and take the lane? Other than turning left, right? When can I take the lane? Can I take that lane and ride in the middle of the right lane?
Well, it's dangerous if when there's obstacles or you have to.
Okay. There's more. There's another reason when I can do it. If I'm going,
You're coming to a stop. and
Overtaking another cyclist.
but there's one more reason where I can just like ride down the middle of the lane and not worry about getting a
When
ticket.
there's no traffic.
No? I love it. So there is a reason you came today. It's if you're going the same speed as the traffic. You're not,
yeah.
right? Like 25
Okay.
miles per hour,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
I'm riding with the speed of traffic. I can do that.
The exact wordage is with the normal flow.
Normal flow.
So it might even be
15.
15 or 20.
Yeah, depends on how fast. They don't go that fast down Higgins. So yeah, you can do it if you're going with the speed of traffic.
Yeah.
It's totally cool to do that. It's totally okay.
If we had more roundabouts, then we could ride more in the middle of the lane.
Yes, we are getting our first roundabout, Higgins Beckwith this summer, and the way cyclists now go through roundabouts, and we're not talking neighborhood circles or East Coast rotaries, the bike lane ends about 50 yards before the roundabout, and there's a slip onto the sidewalk or a merge into the left lane. So cyclists will have 2 options at roundabouts on our arterial roads when they start coming into Missoula.
Great.
And they used to stripe the bike lanes on the outside of roundabouts, but it was found that overtaking cars could not always see cyclists. So the best practice is to either go claim the lane with the cars or use the sidewalk as a pedestrian.
I have a question. If you're riding on the sidewalk and you come to a crosswalk, so you're biking in the crosswalk, or you're choosing that as your way to make a left turn because it's safer, then are you a vehicle or are you a pedestrian? Do the cars have to yield to you as if you're a pedestrian in the crosswalk?
If you are a bicycle on the sidewalk and you go to an intersection and you continue on across the intersection in the crosswalk on the bike, is that what your question is?
Yes.
Do cars have to yield to you as if you're a pedestrian? Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Right.
Well, first of all, Bob and I, what do you guys think about this? This is a very interesting question. I'm glad
I'd
that
like
you've
to
thought of
know the
something to
answer.
ask. That's a very good question.
Yeah. Because a lot of times I'll, like at the Russell and Broadway intersection, I'll just stop on the sidewalk and press the button like I'm a pedestrian and then ride across when the
So,
pedestrian light
if you're
comes.
riding your bike, they don't have to, but if you're pushing your bike across it, then they have to.
I don't know, because you're
Okay.
allowed to
Yeah.
use the crosswalk just the same as
Yeah.
you are a sidewalk,
Yeah.
but you're also, it's the statute starts out, you have all the rights and responsibilities of a vehicle. But you're different.
Right.
You're the same, but you're different.
Okay.
So do they have to?
Okay, it's clear actually. It says,
Oh.
listen to this.
Great.
Hey, listen to this. What does it say here? It says if you are a bike in a crosswalk, you have all of the rights and duties applicable to a pedestrian under the same circumstances. So you are, for all practical purposes, walking.
Far out.
Cars have to yield to you. Now, does that mean, like you said a minute ago though, does that mean that you can just go across there and put yourself at risk when a car might not realize that and you might cause a risk of him hitting you, right? Well, then what you said is right. It's like the law might allow me to do that and it might require them to stop. But if they're not, then you're going to be in the hospital bed. But you were right legally, right?
Yeah.
Big deal. I'd rather be out on the street walking and let the car go through. So I would say use common sense.
There's one right there, crosswalk.
crosswalk bike. Cars
Legal,
yield.
legal.
He's
Legal.
walking, still pedestrian. See how that works?
Now, a car could have been taking a right on red off of Higgins on the Main, and that could have been a problem if a cyclist appears out of nowhere.
And look,
that's
at the,
where-
look at the motorcycle officer looking. He's eyeballing the bike pedestrian. No, he was. Now he's not anymore. Trust me on that.
Well, that's one of the reasons.
He was thinking
the,
about it. He was thinking about it.
Let's throw this in just while we're on all these rights and responsibilities. As a pedestrian, every intersection is considered a crosswalk. And so pedestrians have the right of way at every intersection.
What
Hey,
about
look
a guy
at
on
the
a
wheelchair. What
wheelchair?
about the wheelchair in the middle of the road? What's that? Where's that at?
Yeah,
Where's that
what's
fall?
with that?
It's it's got four wheels. Okay.
No motor.
It's a quadricycle.
Depends on how big the motor is.
Does it?
No, I'm not sure.
Unicycle.
I got a unicycle.
Okay, so what were you saying, Bob?
Well, hold on. A wheelchair is considered a pedestrian, and pedestrians, it's illegal to walk in the road if a sidewalk is provided.
So
So they can't.
So the guy in that wheelchair could be arrested.
you know what? The other thing is that these laws, they were written by humans, okay? And they were written by people that apparently with some common sense. They're supposed to make sense, and they're supposed to meant to, like, you know, keep us safe, I guess. So it would make sense that you don't want to be having a wheelchair out in the middle of the road, right? Most of these things make sense, but not all of them.
It's good
the
indie.
like the car door thing.
Any final thoughts? Pedestrians, cyclists, drivers? You might be going after that guy in the wheelchair.
You think? Oh boy.
It's on it.
He's gonna need a good lawyer. No, I don't think so. He's not gonna pick on him.
Oh,
They do have an
Ah.
ADA law.
Oh boy.
Okay.
What's that?
The ADA law says that that we have to provide a passable path for people in wheelchairs.
Right, right.
So if they don't provide it, presumably he has the right to use the street.
Sure, he does. But where he was, I think, there's a clear sidewalk where he was, right? I think what was happening was he was actually jaywalking. And then, yeah, he was right. He was crossing from one side to the other in the middle of the block, and then he saw that there was a bunch of traffic, so he came back, and now he's coming across at the crosswalk. So, which we all do when we're walking, right? It's no different, right? But it's jaywalking.
Well, jaywalking is only when you cross mid-block between two signalized intersections.
That's what we're talking about here.
Yes,
isn't it? Yeah,
right.
Right.
So a pedestrian can cross mid-block most places in the city, but they don't have the right of way if it's mid-block.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Make
Anything?
your closing statement.
Oh boy.
Safety is important, but not at the expense of accessibility.
Safety's no accident. Come on, everybody, say something. Everybody, a little closing argument, a little closing remark.
Well, I just think it's not only important for the bicyclists to understand the rights and responsibilities, but we need to get the motorists educated too.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about
Yeah.
not knowing that bicyclists have the right to be in the crosswalk or to be in the lane of traffic at certain times, it's important for them to know that.
Share the road.
Yeah.
Last thing?
No?
No,
Everything's good?
everything's covered. It's all good.
I learned a lot today. I thought I knew a lot, but I have a lot to learn still.
I got one thing to say. I'm sorry. If you're going to edit this, put this inside the substance part. But there was one thing we talked about this morning, where if we're sitting there on bicycles, okay, this happens a lot actually. Let's say looking across Broadway, okay. I don't have any. Sorry. And cars will stop. It's an unsignaled intersection.
I got it.
Cars will stop. Okay. And they'll like motion you across.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll look real good on the news.
What's the law on that? Is that are they supposed to stop or not?
No, no.
Are you with me on this? You're stopping your bicycle. on a crosswalk, no signals, and you're waiting for traffic to clear so you can go through, like you would a car, but you're on a bike, okay? Are the cars on Broadway or any other street that are coming through that see you, are they supposed to stop for you? If you're in the road, the answer is no.
Not if you're in the road.
No.
If you're in the pedestrian crosswalk.
If you're in the pedestrian crosswalk, they are supposed to stop for you. So cars will stop
Yeah.
on Broadway.
Yeah.
And you know, it's happened to you before, right?
Yeah, it's very confusing.
Very confusing, and it brings back to what Summer said. You know, everybody needs to know the rules, including the cars, and some of them know. It's almost dangerous actually to stop.
Yes, it is.
It is and it's confusing for the bicyclists and other cars, and for young kids on bikes too. So it's, you know, just something to think about. Cars, you're not supposed to stop for us if we're at a stop sign waiting to cross. Please, it just gets very confusing for all the other cars.
And it's a really bad thing to teach young kids to expect that.
Exactly. I agree. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.